For those of you new to Tricentis Tosca, you will notice there are different sections of the tool that help you in planning, creating, and executing your test cases. These 6 core sections are the module section, the test case section, the test case design section, the requirements section, the execution section, and the reporting section. In this video, you will gain a better insight on the 6 primary sections of Tosca and work with them more confidently. Please note, there are other sections part of Tosca that we will not be covering in this video, such as issues, configurations, and test planning. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for future videos on this topic. So let's jump into it. First, we'll begin with the module section. You may have heard the concept model-based test automation. It is one of the pinnacles of Tricentis Tosca. So how does this work exactly? Well, the module section is where we create the model for our system under test, which will be used to create our test cases. We create this model in Tosca by scanning the application and capturing all the necessary technical information required to steer our test objects. The model is made up of modules, and the individual controls are module attributes. For instance, you may need to steer certain buttons, links, or input fields on an application. Let's quickly have a look at standard modules. Say you want to log into an application, or open a URL, or close a URL. As you know, these are common execution tasks required for automation testing. Instead of creating these modules from scratch, with Tricentis Tosca, we have standard modules already available for your instant use. These come with a standard subset. For instance, we have standard modules for SAP, test data management, T-box automation tools, and many others. By the way, Tosca doesn't just scan UIs, but has the capabilities to scan API, PDFs, mobile, Salesforce, SAP, and much, much more. We won't be covering this here, but you can upskill on this topic through our Academy resources. Let's now jump to the blue section, otherwise known as the test case section in Tosca. Here, we build our test cases. As our modules are ready for use, to create our test cases, we simply drag and drop the relevant module onto our test case, which creates the relevant test step. You can also use the shortcut Ctrl+T if you know the name of the module. We then rename the test step for clarity and readability when working in a test environment. But we're not finished yet. We need to define the steering actions we want Tosca to perform in the application by entering values and defining the action modes. For example, we may want to input a certain value, verify it, or select it. Other action modes include insert, buffer, wait on, and constraint. In summary, test cases contain the sequence of test commands in the form of test steps and test step values. Test step folders provide an additional way of structuring objects in a clear and readable way when necessary. Let's move on to the next section. At Tricentis, we know that speed changes everything. You need to be able to leverage fast test case creation and easy maintenance of your tests, which are apt to frequently change as the system under test adapts. So how can we automatically generate all the different combinations of possible test cases that are required to ensure we have full test coverage? This is where test case design comes into the picture. With test case design, you can do the following. You can organize your test cases into a logical structure, specify your test cases wisely in order to maximize test coverage and reduce effort and redundancy later on. You can manage test data. You can use test sheets to automatically generate all possible variations for your test cases that are required for full test coverage. By utilizing the template concept in the test case section, in combination with the data in your test sheets, you can quickly turn one automated test case into dozens. These will be ready to run with the appropriate data and flows through the application. Want to know more? Check out our courses Automation Specialist Level 1 and Level 2 and Test Design Specialist Level 1 for deep dives on templates and test case design. You can also find more information on these topics on our Academy YouTube channel and Academy webinars. Let's now move on to requirements. As we know, requirements specify the objectives of your tests and are defined, analyzed, as well as adapted throughout testing. With the requirements section in Tosca, you can easily specify the requirements for your system under test, as well as assign risk coverage for efficient testing. You can also prioritize high-risk requirements and quickly understand the business impact should certain test cases linked to that requirement fail. Once you have created your requirement structure and assigned the specific weighting, you link your requirements to your test cases. You can do this by drag and drop or link many test cases at once to a particular requirement. But it doesn't stop here. Ultimately, we want to have a clear overview of which test cases linked to certain requirements passed or failed in execution. For this, first we need to cover the green section in Tosca. This is where the actual execution of our test cases is performed. In this section, you can see the logs and results of your tests. For instance, you can see the results of each test step, the differences between different runs, and the results of each run. You can also conduct exploratory testing or boost your performance with distributed execution in this section. Creating execution entries is very easy. You simply drag and drop the relevant test case onto the already created execution list. Additionally, you can set up different execution lists to be run in different environments or configurations. As mentioned before, we want to know exactly the requirement coverage of our test cases. That is, which test cases linked to high-risk requirements passed or failed in execution. To have this overview, we need to link our execution entry onto the corresponding requirement. We can then head over to the requirements section and clearly see the execution state of our test cases. Finally, we have the reporting section. C-levels, test managers, and test architects want to know clearly which test cases passed or failed in your test automation projects and distinguish the test cases with the highest risk that passed or met the test criteria. With the reporting section in Tosca, you can create high-level reports to document the status of the project with real-time data. It allows you to generate reports for various object types. Once you have assigned a report definition, as well as designated a designer definition, you can easily print your report on any object type in Tosca. Simply right-click on the object and select Print Report. Before we leave you, please note this is just one example of how to use the different sections in Tosca. We know that in reality, you are likely to work with different sections a lot more dynamically throughout the continuous testing process. And that's it. Well, there's much more, but they only gave us under 10 minutes. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Stay tuned on our Academy YouTube channel, Academy webinars, or enroll to one of our courses for further learning.